All right, so I think we'll get started. Welcome everyone to the virtual tenant resource fair hosted by Nazareth Housing and with many special guests. Um, Philip Tabata from HPD's Neighborhood Education and Outreach team. We have Sam Yang from New York City Commission on Human Rights. You'll hear from Christopher McAlpine Belton from Human Resources Administration, Justin Jenkins from New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, Nancy Torres from Housing Court Answers, Letitia Wright from HPD's marketing, and also from Chris Barrett from Nazareth Housing, who will talk about Ariva's Ready to Rent financial counseling program. So a lot to talk about. Um, just some heads up right at the beginning. If you have a question, you can type your question into the Q&A box, or you can type it into the chat and one of us, one of the panelists will be able to help you out answering that question. You can also raise your hand at the very end during our Q&A portion, and you'll be able to speak to our panelists and they'll be able to give you live feedback. All the attendees right now are muted and your cameras are disabled, but please join us in the chat, be active, and we'll answer your questions on the fly. If you're calling from a phone, I think you can hit *9 to raise your hand, and then we'll just unmute you during the Q&A portion. So very quickly, Nazareth Housing, just to give you a sense of who we are a community-based organization committed to the promotion of housing stability and economic mobility among families and individuals in New York City. We do a lot of things. We help with benefits enrollment, SNAP, SCREE, DREE, for senior citizens, rental assistance, or if you're disabled, rental arrears, utilities assistance. Obviously, we work very closely with HPD Housing Connect, the housing lottery applications. I know a lot of those can be very intimidating, but with staff members here at Nazareth Housing, we can walk you through it step by step. We also have a great financial counseling and tax preparation program. They're all free. Just give us a call or send us an email and we'll do our best to set you up with someone to help you. Our tax season obviously is still open, so I think it's till May 17th is the deadline. So give us a call and we can set you up there. Also, we have 2 pantries on Tuesdays in the Lower East Side and Wednesdays in the Bronx. Those are really easy to come to. They're early in the morning, so we allow anyone who wants to come can come, no questions asked. Any other questions? Just visit us at nazarethhousingnyc.org and you'll learn all about us, how to get in touch, all that good stuff. But with no further ado, I think let's get to our first speaker, Philip Tabata from HPD, Neighborhood Education Outreach Team. Philip, you want to take it away?
Sure, thank you. Hopefully I'm saying this right. Randall, right?
Oh yeah, you got it.
Randall, thank you so much. It's great partnering with you guys. If you could just stop sharing your screen and then I'll share mine. Thanks, I appreciate it. This is a great partnership, HPD and Nazareth Housing, as well as the great speakers that we have online today to offer information that would be very helpful to people that are renting right now and kind of like are wondering what's going on with all of the things that are taking place in New York City during COVID-19. So my presentation will be somewhat brief so that I can make more time for the other presenters to be heard and offer the valuable information that everybody is here to receive. So first, I'd like to say welcome to New York City Housing Preservation and Development Tenants Resource Fair in partnership with Nazareth Housing. HPD was established in 1978 to promote the quality and affordability of the city's housing and the strength and diversity of its many neighborhoods. During this time, which is COVID, we've experienced unprecedented situations dealing with rent, dealing with evictions. So if you have questions in reference to about the coronavirus, you can go to nyc.gov/coronavirus for more information, or you can call 311. For those of you that own houses, we also have what is called property management classes that is promoted and sponsored by NEAL, which is us, the Neighborhood Education and Outreach Unit, where we cover such topics as owning a rental property, how to do your books, the laws for fair housing and discrimination, We also have guest speakers that come in that relate to code enforcement, property registration. We have the Department of Finance that also speaks about property taxes and liens, the Department of Buildings, how to take care of your boiler, elevator, or facades, and Department of Health with reference to lead, mold, and pest. And also we have the DEP, which is water and sewer, where they'll talk about things related to that. Now, if you're looking to buy a house, there's a great program which is called First Time Home Buyers Down Payment Assistance. Basically, if you qualify for a 1 to 4 family in any one of the 5 boroughs, you might be qualified for homeowners assistance of $40,000 to help you to buy a house. You can reach any one of our neighborhood housing services organizations, and you can go online to look them up, or you can go to nyc.gov/HPD to get more information on that subject matter. Now, COVID-19 eviction protection and rent hardship. An executive order was set out by Mario Cuomo on May 7th, 2020. Now, that was supposed to have expired 60 days ago, but they extended it to May 1st, which means that you cannot be evicted from your property, you cannot be foreclosed on your property, at least up until May 1st. And there's some things in the work up in Albany to try to extend that date. For any further information, call 311. Now, tenants' rights and responsibilities. This is important during COVID-19. In New York City, tenants have many rights relating to the safety and quality of their housing. Tenants should expect to live in safe, well-maintained buildings that are free from vermin, leaks, and hazardous conditions. Laws protect tenants from harassment and discrimination. Tenants have responsibilities to their building owners also, and to other tenants, including not damaging the building and responding to an annual owner inquiry related to window guards, lead-based paint, and to maintain smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Now, how to prevent eviction? Well, there's things such as a one-shot deal, which HRA is on the line, they'll talk about. There's home base, which will also help you out. There's 311, and there's legal advice, which Housing Court Answers can answer that part for you. But more importantly than that, there's what is known as the Fair Housing New York City. This allows you to be able to defend yourself in case you feel like you're being discriminated against or being picked on in reference to being evicted or being forced to leave your house. You can go to nyc.gov fairhousing.nyc, or you can ask the questions with our Commission on Human Rights for more information on that. But there's also another resource that's available to you, which is through the Mayor's Office of Tenant Protection. This resource is very important because it answers all of the questions that you might have in reference to what should you do in case you're faced with eviction or concerned about being evicted. And that is nyc.gov/tenant resource portal. Very good information on there, especially under this COVID-19 situation that we're in. Now, new tenant protection laws. This way you can go, if you're having a dispute with your landlord and you want to try to work it out, you can go and actually have a discussion with your landlord about how you can resolve this issue without having to go to court. That is the Tenant Landlord Mediation Program. The mediation project will handle cases in a setting where both parties feel safe, and priority will be given to tenants and small landlords who do not have legal representation. This is really good because if you don't want to go to court and deal with the long waits and the long lines, you could possibly have somebody mediate for you and your landlord to try to work things out. If you want to freeze your rent, we have HRA on the line, which will talk about screen and DRE. And if you are unaware that 311 is your friend for resources that you might need in reference to COVID-19 questions, face covering violations, social distancing complaints, how to find a doctor if you need food and you're a senior, if you need food and you're just not a senior, if you need to know alternate side of the street parking, if you're looking for an unemployment check or unemployment insurance, if you need a one-shot deal, or if you need to find a job. 311 is your friend to help you out in those areas. Now, if you're looking for Section 8 or if you're on NYCHA Section 8, we have HRA on here to address any Section 8 questions that you might have regarding your rent. HPD Section 8 office is closed. However, you can fax them at 212-863-5299, or you can email them at dtrai@hpd.nyc.gov. Housing Connect, which is on the line, will talk about the Fair Housing Program and how you can apply for affordable housing through the marketing program and HPD Housing Connect program that we have, which is really a very good program, and they'll elaborate on that later. So I said I'm not going to take up much of the time because we want to hear the other guest speakers that are here with the vital information. So thank you for inviting Neighborhood Outreach and Education to provide housing information and resources. You can reach us at neo@hpd.nyc.gov. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Philip. If you don't mind, can you put that contact information in the chat just so people, you know how we love to copy and paste these days?
Sure, no
That would
problem.
be super handy.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Philip.
Randall, the next speaker is Flora, not Sam. So Flora is our guest speaker.
You got it. And then
right.
Flora, whenever you're ready, you can take over and share your screen. Looks like you're good. Okay, great. I will get out of the way.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry. Forgot to unmute myself. Good evening. Thank you for Nazareth Housing and HPD invitation. My name is Flora. I am a human rights specialist. New York City Commission on Human Rights. It's a city agency. We enforce the human rights law, which prohibit discriminations in the area of employment, housing, public accommodations, discriminatory harassments, and bias-based profiling by law enforcement. Tonight, we're going to focus more on the fair housing. So what's New York City Commission on Human Rights? We are a law enforcement agency. We enforce the civil rights law, which is New York City human rights law. That's the most comprehensive human rights law in United States. We have total 27 protected class. So our biggest department is actually our law enforcement bureau. Our law enforcement bureau accept complaints, initial investigations, file commission initiative cases, and also bring cases to OAS for hearings and for settlements. Me and Sam actually work for community relationship bureaus. So we educate the human rights law that people knows about your rights or your obligations as a landlord or employer about New York City human rights law. So we do educational workshop like this. We also partner with faith organizations, community-based organizations. We even do a lot of our trainings in school and different entities. And with the litigation, sometimes takes some time. If both parties agree, our Office of Mediation or Conflict and Conflict Resolution will provide a mediation service to both parties. And the last is the Office of Chair. They do hearings to make sure if they are maybe there are more protection needed and other related issues. And what is the New York City human rights law? What are the coverage? Like I mentioned earlier, the human rights law prohibit discriminations in all these areas, in employments, in public accommodations, in housing, in discriminatory harassments, in bias-based profiling by law enforcement. So we have a jurisdiction if the incident happened within a year. The only exceptions is gender-based violence, for example, sexual harassment. So for that, it could be extended for 3 years. And if the incident happened beyond that, and it's still under New York State's human rights law protection, sometimes people could file their case with New York State as well. And what's considered a violation of human rights law? A lot of times we have, when we had a conversation with the landlords or the employers, they will say things like, I did rent that housing to that specific tenant. It's just because of their immigration status or because they have children. I asked for more months of deposit, or I asked for different term. So in a way, under the law, any unfair or unequal treatment is considered a violation of New York City human rights law if that's based on that person's protected class, such as race, color, or having children or using vouchers. And so in this, you must establish a relationship, right? An employee to an employer, a tenant to a landlord, a customer to a public accommodation. So in the area that the landlord has been divided in a border term, meaning that it doesn't mean just the owner of that specific buildings. It could be your super, it could be the management company, it could be the real estate brokers. So whoever is representing the landlord, it's considered the landlord. If they violate the human rights law, you should let us know. So all these are protected class under the housing, age, if you have children, or you potentially will have a children, sometimes like pregnant, like family with pregnant woman, right? If due to your color, if you are disability, just to be mindful that right now, due to the pandemic, having COVID-19 considered a temporary of disability. So people who have a COVID-19 should be given reasonable accommodations from the landlord. If it's based on your gender, based on your gender identity, based on your immigration or citizenship status. So, last year there was a very big case that one of the landlords just bought a building and asked all the tenants to, provide a copy of a U.S. passport or a copy of a green card. Whoever don't have green card or citizen or U.S. citizenship approval will be evicted. That will be, definitely against the law. Any lawful source of income if you are using voucher or other assistance. Lawful occupation, right? For example, last year during the post situation, like in your state, the essential workers like a doctor, nurse, the supermarket cashiers, drivers, or the essential workers actually face the landlord harassment. Some landlord think that essential worker will bring the virus in the building, so they refuse to let essential workers to live in their housing. So that will be discrimination based on lawful occupation, and it's protected under the law. So we intervene based on your marital partnership status, based on your national origin, based on your sexual orientation, based on your status of a victim of domestic violence, sexual violence, or stalking. If you are pregnant, your race, your religion, creed, or you are uniformed service. So all these are protected class under fair housing. So it is unlawful and discriminate. A lot of times people think, this is my own home, right? I bought it, and I bought a 6-family home. This is, I have my own rule. The fair housing law only apply to public housing. That's wrong, okay? So this law protect any private public lands, like any person who's selling, renting, leasing, right, including landlord, superintendent, building manager, broker, realtors, cannot discriminate because of person's protected class. Because of person's actual and perceived protected status. So sometimes the landlord might make a mistake in thinking you don't have an immigration status, and they discriminate you based on that. That's still under case, even though, you know, so it's based on actual and perceived. There are few exceptions. If it's a two-family that you live, like the landlord live one of the unit, and they don't do advertisement. So then few of those like gender-specific dorm type of residence, or you know, like independent living or senior housing, that will be the few exceptions. So like we mentioned earlier, you know, any landlord, superintendent, brokers, even newspaper, if newspaper or social media who posts ads use discriminatory term, that was still consider violation, or any lending institution, insurance company, appraisal company, etc. So lawful source of income is including any form of federal, state, or local government housing assistance, right? Whether it's a cash or it's a voucher. And you know, these are some of the examples. So any ads that says no voucher, that will be illegal. So the law used to say that as long as it's less than 6 units, you are exemption from this no voucher. However, ever since February 1st, all type of housing, even though it's a two-family, you cannot refuse vouchers or any type of subsidies. So this will be other type of discrimination. A landlord or broker cannot refuse to rent, right? Cannot refuse to process or renew your paperwork for your subsidy. Refuse to repair, right? Refuse to rent apartment unless that you earn certain times of that rent, even though your voucher could cover, right? Print ad says no voucher, no subsidy, right? Or require credit check if your subsidy or voucher could cover the entire rent and utilities. So all this will be violations. The landlord cannot refuse to sell, rent, or lease, cannot misrepresenting the available of housing, cannot set a different term. You know, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes landlord will say, you know, they got a housing, what's wrong with it? You cannot set a different terms or conditions. You will provide a different housing service. You will say, you know, people with rent stabilized cannot access the laundromat rent, or you know, kind of you limit service for certain type of tenants, right? Posting discriminatory ads or marketings, right? Refuse to provide a reasonable accommodation, especially right now under pandemic, COVID. People who have a COVID-19, it's considered disability, and they should entitled reasonable accommodations. Stealing a potential home buyer or renter to a specific neighborhood, right? Pressuring for profit seller to sell their home, you know, due to their demographic change. And other practice like unlawful lending and credit practice, right? Refusing to make a mortgage to a qualified applicant, refusing to provide information regarding a loan program, right? Imposing different terms or conditions on loan or credit, such as different interest rate, different points or fees. All this are considered violation of fair housing law. And accommodation for a person with disability, it's accommodate their needs to ensure they have a meaningful access to enjoy a housing unit. So enjoying a housing unit, sometimes we see landlord that treated people with disability without manner, like they could only access the back door, which is dark and at a certain hour, that will consider a violation as well. Also, right now, again, due to the pandemic situation, a lot of people will need emotional support, animals or pets. Even though the building has a no pet policy, that should be considered a reasonable accommodations. If it's structure involve architectures, we will take a look to see if that causes an undue shipment, meaning that if it costs too much financially, or sometimes based on the building. We have a whole team called Equal Access Team. They will help to evaluate the needs. So what is a cooperative dialogue? Meaning that you have a good face conversation with the housing providers. The accommodation needed must be requested by an applicant or a resident with the disability. The law requires that landlord or owner to pay for the accommodation. So the landlord and the owner is responsible for the cost. To contact us, if you forget a number, you can always call 311 and ask transfer to Human Right, or call our direct info line at 212-416-0197. You could also go to our website. You could file a complaint online. File a complaint online. There were only about like 10 questions asked. As long as you put your name and contact information, like your email or your phone number correct, we will contact you to ask for more information. I will also share more resources in the chat box as well. This is our process of intake. We first will do intake with the case, and a complaint will be officially filed, and we will open investigation to make a determinations. So sometimes the process might take some time. That's why the conflict of resolution, and especially right now during COVID-19, we formed a special COVID-19 response team last April because people's need to be addressed right away. So we have a special team to deal with all COVID-19 related issue. So that will be it. I will stay for Q&A if people have more questions. Thank you.
That was excellent, Flora. Thank you so much for sharing. The information is very valuable. Flora will put her information into the chat for those people to contact her if you have any other questions. We will also have a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, you can put it in the chat or wait until the end. But our next speaker is Christopher, and he has a great presentation also.
Thank you, Philip. Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher McAlpine-Belton. I'm the Outreach Manager for the Rent Freeze and Property Tax Exemption Unit at the Mayor's Public Engagement Unit based within the Human Resources Administration. I'm going to talk about the services that my team provides to clients in terms of rent freezes, specifically the SCREE and the DREE programs, and how we can help you get enrolled and answer any questions you have about that. HRA, just to be clear, is a very big administration, and my team focuses specifically on enrollment in the SCREE and DREE programs. So while I'm happy to answer questions that are outside of that, I will tell you if I don't know the answer to your question, it's related to an HRA unit outside of what we do, I will be more than happy to tell you the unit that you should contact to get your information. If you have any questions about SCREE and DREE and enrolling in the rent freeze programs, then I am your man. I'm going to start sharing my screen and go through some of the information that I hope will help everyone here tonight. So again, my name is Christopher McAlpine-Belton, and I am the Outreach Manager for the Mayor's Public Engagement Unit's Rent Freeze team. Our goal is to help eligible senior citizens and people with disabilities freeze their rent or claim property tax exemptions. This is important to establish that we work with both tenants and homeowners. Because today's presentation will be focusing on tenants, I will be talking in detail about the tenant programs that we offer support and case management for. However, if you or someone else you know is an owner, we also have programs to help out with owners as well. The programs that we support case management and enrollment for are SCREE and DREE, which are the rent freeze programs of the City of New York. We also support enrollment for owners who are interested in SHEHE and DHE, which are the parallels to the tenant programs SCREE and DREE. We also help with STAR and E-STAR enrollment, VHE enrollment, and G enrollment. Basically, the property tax exemption programs are mainly to reduce the assessed value of your property so that the burden of paying property taxes is lessened if you're eligible for these programs. I'll talk in detail about SCREE and DREE and what those are. The other property tax exemption programs will not be covered in this presentation, but you are free to contact our unit if you would like to find out more about them. Now, before getting into the details of the SCREE and DREE programs, I want to talk about what my team specifically does and how we can help you. One of the major aspects of our operations is that we provide what's called targeted proactive outreach. That is, we are the human aspect of getting into these programs. Any question you have about them, if you don't know where to start to apply to the programs, you want to apply on your own and you want to know what documents you need to apply, you can reach out to us and ask us about it. We also provide case management support. So if you decide to enroll in these programs or renew your benefits into these programs with us, we will monitor the status of your case and remain in contact with you at each step of the way so that you know what is happening. Prior to COVID, we also provided home visits and door service. So for instance, many clients who would like to enroll in these programs are hesitant or unable to leave their homes. Prior to COVID, we would go out and collect documents to support the enrollment. We also carry out phone banking to contact people who we think might be eligible for these programs. And of course, as you see tonight, we are happy to be here at events and partnerships with other agencies as well as community-based organizations to spread the word about the program. We work very closely with the Department of Finance. In the recent survey that was done by DOF determined that less than half of the eligible New Yorkers are enrolled in the rent freeze programs. This is why we have such a special push to ensure that everyone who is eligible gets enrolled and knows about what they might qualify for. As I said before, we provide comprehensive case management services that are catered to clients, catered to New Yorkers. If you would like to work with us to get involved in one of these programs, to renew your benefits, to enroll these benefits, or to pursue something different, we'll explain your options to you, who to contact, what you need to enroll in the programs. We'll work to develop the application with you. We'll collect documents from you. We'll explain what we need from you in order to advance your application. And then working with the Department of Finance, one of our agency partners, we'll submit the application on your behalf. And we will be in touch with the Department of Finance and in touch with you to determine where your application is in the evaluation process, if a determination has been made on your application, or if there's a problem with your application and how to resolve it. Our goal is to work with you from the beginning of the process of intake to get you to an approval if you qualify. Some of the reasons why you might want to work with us is sometimes you might think that you've been denied when you should have been approved for benefits. We can be a first go-to in case of that consideration. We can look at your situation and determine perhaps a case was wrongfully denied. We can work with the Department of Finance to have a redetermination of the case done to determine if you really do qualify for a case that you feel you were denied for. You might have unique circumstances that have affected your ability to renew or apply for benefits, and we can work with you to document those in order to have the Department of Finance look again at the situation. We've had tenants who have been unable to secure renewal leases. As you may or may not know, in order to renew your benefits for SCREE, you'll need to have a copy of your renewal lease to continue in the process, and many tenants have found landlords unwilling or unable to do this. We can work with you as to how to advocate for yourself and ensure that you get your renewal lease that you're entitled to when you're trying to demonstrate documentation for the program. And then finally, you may have missing documents, a lost or delayed application. You may have sent an application in and you never heard anything. We can work with the Department of Finance and work with you to figure out where your application is and what the next steps are. With that all said, I will talk about the specific programs that we're offering case management for tenants tonight. That are SCREE and DREE. These programs are essentially the same as each other. Their only difference is that they target different subpopulations within New York. They work the same way. The idea behind SCREE and DREE is that your rent is frozen at the time that you were successfully approved in the program that year. And then for each subsequent lease, as the leases continue to increase in terms of legal rent for an apartment, which tends to increase every 1 to 2 years on apartments, if you remain eligible for the program, as the legal rent goes up, you will still pay the frozen rent that you secured when you first enrolled in the program, which shields you from increases in the cost of living in your unit over time. So here's a graphic that provides an example. In year one, let's say you enroll in SCREE and DREE, you're approved, and your rent is, say, $1,000 that year. Maybe the next year, in this hypothetical situation, the legal rent for the apartment might increase $200 a month. If you still maintain your eligibility for the program, you will be frozen at the $1,000 a month rent that you were paying in year one, and the landlord will receive the difference between the legal rent and the frozen rent you're paying in the form of a tax abatement credit for the city, which will be used to reduce the property tax burden the landlord has to pay to the city at the end of the year. In this way, both tenants and landlords benefit from the program. The landlords get to keep their property taxes lower, and tenants are saved from the burden of increasing housing costs, which makes New York City increasingly difficult to live in. What are the eligibility criteria for the SCREE and DREE programs? So, for SCREE, the Senior Citizen Rent Increase Exemption Program, to apply, you must be 62 years of age or older. For DREE, the Disabled Rent Increase Exemption, you just need to be 18 or older. In terms of income, the programs are absolutely identical. All the household members combined must pay $50,000 or less collectively, and the tenant must pay more than 1/3 of their income on rent. So if you live in a household that has more than one person, this program considers the income of everybody together, which is very important to consider. Finally, apartment type. In order to apply and qualify for SCREE or DREE, you have to live in a rent-controlled or rent-stabilized or rent-regulated apartment or single-room occupancy, and you need to be on the lease for that unit. Additional requirement for DREE is this: you must have what is termed a qualifying physical disability, which is demonstrated by receipt of one of the following forms of benefits: the Federal Supplemental Security Income Benefit, Federal Social Security Disability Insurance, also SSDI, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Disability Pension or Compensation, United States Postal Service Disability Pension or Compensation, or disability-related Medicaid if the applicant has received either SSI or SSDI in the past. These requirements only apply if you're interested in pursuing DREE. For SCREE, the basic requirements that you heard before, with the exception of the age 62 or older, apply. The goal that we have in my unit is to ensure that New Yorkers who are especially vulnerable, seniors and people with disabilities who are especially subject to the limited incomes and the fact that the cost of living intends to increase from year to year, our concern is that these populations will be priced out of our city, and we want to ensure that people can remain in their homes and remain in their communities and live out with dignity and with some degree of sustainability. And this is why we're offering these services, and we want to make sure that you know about them. There are some other programs that you might have heard about or might be in some way related to what we do. My team does not provide case management services for these things, but I wanted to make sure that you all knew about them. If you have concerns about NYCHA or Section 8, the best source for that information is NYCHA. My team, unfortunately, does not have access to that information, but I provided NYCHA's information here for you if you're interested. Anyone who wants to know more about the housing lottery or entry into specialized housing, you'll probably hear more about that later in this presentation. My team does not handle that, but you can stay on the line and hear more about that in a little bit. And then finally, if you have an issue with health insurance, or you need to get health insurance, or you don't know what your health insurance options are, there is a team within the Mayor's Public Engagement Unit called Get Covered that can help you there. I provided their information here. And finally, I'd like to provide my team's information. If you're interested in applying for SCREE and DREE or want to know more about homeowner tax exemption programs, you can always reach my team by calling our hotline at 929-252-7242. You can also go to my team's website at nyc.gov/mayorspeu, and you can also work with the Department of Finance to find out more about those programs, nyc.gov/rentfreeze or nyc.gov/finance. And when all else fails, you can call 311 and say rent freeze to be connected to a program associate who can tell you more about these programs. Thank you for your time. I will be staying on if you have any questions and provide the contact information for my team in group chat.
Excellent job, Christopher, as always. Powerful information we have here for the people that are online that are renting. Our next speaker up is from the DHCR. We have Justin.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Philip. My name is Justin Jenkins. There we go. Let me start there we go. My name is Justin Jenkins. I am a rent specialist 1 at the New York State Housing and Community Renewal. And before we get started, pretty much what we do is we are an administrative agency with the state of New York who are over rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments. Now, I specifically represent the Office of Rent Administration. So there are so many different units and components to HCR. We have a Section 8 unit through the state of New York. We also have a Mitchell-Lama unit, and I do not work under those. I'd be happy to give you resources if those specific programs, if you have something to do with that. But what I'm here strictly for tonight is to speak on tenants and owners who live or own apartments and rent stabilized or rent controlled units in buildings. So with that being said, let me share my screen. Okay. So like I said, I'm Justin Jenkins. I represent the New York State Division of Housing Community Renewal, specifically the Office of Rent Administration, who presides over rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments. Our office regulates rent stabilized and rent controlled apartments and landlord-tenant relationships in privately owned buildings in New York City and its surrounding counties, Nassau, Rockland, and Westchester. We regulate over 45,000 buildings and over 900,000 apartments and require owners to file apartment registration forms with us annually each year so that we have a computer database with tenants' names, addresses, rents, and lease information. We function much like court, where tenants can file written complaints with us and on our forms, and you're able to attach evidence. We open up a case and then we serve the complaint on the owner, and he or she will provide us with a response and evidence. After we gather enough evidence from both sides, we issue a decision in writing, which we call an order, and it has to be signed by a rent administrator in order for it to be official. Tenants and owners have the right to fight to appeal the order if they feel it is incorrect or we've reached a determination in any type of error. The different topics I'll be speaking on tonight: borough and rent office procedural changes due to COVID-19, our fact sheet number 26, which is a guide to rent increases for rent stabilized apartments, heat and hot water, which is our fact sheet number 15, the rent relief program through the state of New York, and our Rent Connect system, which will allow you to file and request certain information to our agency through the computer. HCR has new procedures based on COVID. Appointments must be scheduled. Can you see it? Okay, there we go. Appointments must be scheduled at least 1 day in advance and no more than 2 weeks in advance. You must wear a mask in the office at all times, and each appointment is only 30 minutes long, okay? We need enough time to be able to clean the waiting area before you get there and enough time to clean for the next person who comes in for an appointment. Please bring ID and proof of tenancy, or if you're an owner, proof of ownership. So if you're a tenant, a Con Edison bill or a renewal lease will suffice. If you're an owner, a copy of the deed or a copy of the tax bill will suffice. Please arrive early as extra time will be needed to clear building security and elevator passenger limits. Paper submissions to pending cases cannot be accepted at borough rent offices any longer, okay? All paper submissions should be mailed to our main office. I'm gonna say the address now. I'm also, after my presentation, I'm gonna drop some links in the chat box, so you can come back to this information whenever you want, but all submissions must be mailed to 92-31 Union Hall Street, Jamaica, New York, area code 11435. And you must attention the docket number in which you are following up for. Fact sheet number 26, which is based on rent increases in rent stabilized apartments. We update it annually, so now it includes the October 2020 through September 2021 guidelines, which those guidelines are for a 1-year renewal lease, it is a 0% increase. If you sign a 2-year lease for the first year, there is no increase, okay? But on the anniversary of that, for the second half of that lease, there will be a 1% increase to the preferential or legal rent, whichever rent it is that you are paying. Heat and hot water, which is our fact sheet number 15. Okay. Heating season is through October 1st through May 31st. Heat between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. has to be 68 degrees indoors when outside is below 55 degrees, and from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 62 degrees minimum. I know that spring is here and we're starting to get good weather, but these are things that are mandatory, and we're not out of the woods yet. We know the weather in New York can fluctuate, okay? So we still have a few more weeks of heating season. So this information is important. Hot water, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, okay? Constant, you are entitled to hot water. Minimum constant temperature should be 120 degrees at the tap and minimum of 110 degrees for tub or shower with an anti-scald valve, all right? Form Heat and Hot Water -1 or HHW-1 can be filed online for individual apartments. Multiple tenants can file by attaching a schedule and mailing the form HHW-1 or by filing form RA-84. Applications must have a report from the appropriate city agency finding a lack of heat or hot water before you're able to file with HCR, okay? And it must be attached to the application. So if you are facing any type of heat and hot water problems and you want our agency to look into it, you first have to contact the New York City Citizen Service Center 311 prior to filing a complaint with HCR. That's very important because if you do not reach out to them first and if you don't have any type of documentation proving that there is a lack of heat and hot water, unfortunately, HCR will not be able to fulfill your request. So make sure you do this first. The rent relief program. COVID rent relief program application period expired as of February 1st, 2021. Pre-recorded information may still be found at 833-499-0318. However, there is no longer an operator or a voicemail option at this time, okay? So if you are still in need of assistance, households impacted by COVID who are still in need of rental assistance should visit otda.ny.gov for more information regarding the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance's new rental assistance program. So it's now being transferred from HCR to OTDA. So feel free to go on their website for more information on the next round of the rental relief program, okay? But HCR is no longer over this program. Rent Connect. So like I was saying earlier, with heat and hot water, also with a plethora of other complaints or information that you would like to gain from our agency, you can now do that online through our Rent Connect portal, okay? This is how you reach it, rent.hcr.ny.gov. Here's a little bit of what it looks like. So when you go on there, you would click any one of these options that appeal to you or that, you know, that you would need any information on. And it's pretty self-explanatory, okay? You can request your rent history. You can file applications to HCR. Applications for tenants or complaints rather are decreased services, rent overcharge, lease complaints. You can respond to an MCI case, and you can also use our newly created MCI payment estimator. So I know a lot of people, when an owner goes to file for an MCI in your building, it can be very tedious trying to figure out, you know, what do I have to pay initially? What do I have to pay retroactively? What will the increase be in 2 or 3 years? So now you can use the MCI calculator before we issue a judgment. So you can kind of get a pretty close but rough estimate on what the MCI increase will actually be going forward if we do find that the owner is eligible for this increase, okay? So feel free to play around with it, to use it. You know, it's here for you. It's a resource. And like I said, it makes it a whole lot easier, especially with COVID. You know, you can file a lot of things, request for a lot of information. You can do a lot on our website. Resources, okay? So here's our website, atr.ny.gov. Our rent info line is 833-499-0343. If you want to ask a question, you can do so at portal.atr.ny.gov, or you can contact us at atr.ny.gov/contact-us. And COVID-19 resources are at this link below. Like I said, I know this is a lot of information. Everyone's not able to take a screenshot, so I will drop these resources in the comment section. And thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. And thanks so much. Have a great one.
Justin, that was an awesome job. Thank you so much for sharing. As you said, it was a lot of information for people that are on the line to gather, but it will be in the chat as a resource that you could tap into. But if you happen to find yourself in court or being about to go to court and you have questions on what should you do, we have up next Housing Court Answers with Nancy. And Justin, if you could stop sharing your screen, that would be good. Thank you.
Hello, folks. Thank you so much, Justin, for that presentation, and Phillips. Yes, I'm going to share my screen now. 1 second. All right. Well, as Philip shared, my name is Nancy Torres, and I'm a housing specialist at Housing Court Answers. For the purpose of this training, we'll be talking about rent arrears assistance during the COVID-19 pandemic. But I do want to share a little bit about Housing Court Answers beforehand and other resources that are available through our organization. I'll be dropping in the chat our telephone, our hotline number, so that folks will be able to connect with us Monday through Friday, 9 through 5 p.m. Our organization not only provides rental arrears screening, but we are also able to provide legal information based on housing issues that tenants are having or small homeowners are having at the moment. Specifically, if you're are not aware of your rights or are in need of more guidance, we're able to hear out what is currently happening and definitely guide you through the proper resources. Another thing we do is that if you have received court documents from your landlord and for, you've been sued in housing court for either a non-payment or a holdover, we'll be able to connect you to a free legal attorney. And then I'm jumping into the rental arrears assistance. So in general, just want to give a rent arrears definition. So this is for all tenants who have fallen behind on rent. Specifically, a lot of people right now have fallen behind during the COVID-19 pandemic. And at the moment, there are no requirements for you to be sued in housing court during this time. In the past, you had to have been sued and receive housing court documents from the Civil Court of New York to be eligible for specific loans or grants from HRA. And at the moment, there's also a lot of folks don't know, but there are private organizations such as charities and nonprofits that are able to provide that rental assistance. So if you, for any reason, have been denied by HRA, there are other organizations that I'll share about as well. So where do we come in regards to rental assistance? At the moment, when a tenant gives us a call, we'll be able to speak to all the tenant in regards to why they fell behind. Most of the time during this pandemic, it's due to COVID, and we always ask tenants to come prepared. So when you're calling our hotline, there's 3 main things that we are information when we'll do that rent screening, which is knowing your current rent, knowing what type of programs you are currently your rent is being covered. So if you have Section 8, if you have SCREE or DREE, as well as the full amount of the arrears that you owe. During this time, we conduct screening so we can guide you through the proper organizations that do provide that funding. Our organization does not provide the funding, but we do do those main screenings. So such as Nazareth Housing will provide funding, or we also do a direct screening for the Bridge Fund program. if you're not eligible for specific organizations that I mentioned, there are many other resources like Catholic Charities that will assist tenants to apply for the HRA, the one-shot deal. So when a tenant calls HCA, we'll be able to, as I said, speak to them and ask them what is the specific situation. We'll ask what the household composition is, and we'll go through a series of questions regarding their personal income, their living situation, and the screening will determine where should we route you, where should the client have to go. Overall, many tenants end up calling several different organizations, but once they get to their appointment, they hadn't realized that they weren't even eligible for that organization. So our goal here is that when a tenant calls us, and always if whoever calls our hotline, definitely ask to be screened for rental assistance, because you may have been told that you're not eligible for one, but you may be eligible for another organization. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, as we're moving forward, as we said, there's no need to go to housing to first be sued in housing court for either a non-payment or a holdover. But many tenants in the past would go to housing court to apply for that back rent assistance. At the moment, tenants, that resource of going into the court is not available. So give us a call if you're not aware of where to go. We are definitely here to guide you in the best place. And as well, there is a hardship declaration. So on the second bullet point here that we see, on December 28 of last year, tenants and landlords who are facing foreclosures, this is small homeowners, can file a declaration of hardship so that it can prevent a proceeding to be placed against you until May 1st. So there is no deadline. We are pretty close to May 1st now, so there's no deadline. You can still send the declaration of hardship during this time, and that prevents any landlord or any a party to start a proceeding against you during this time, so that you can state to the court and to the landlord that you have been impacted by COVID-19. Overall, this gives you a bit more time to apply for that rental assistance, to reach out to our organization and to other organizations that presented here to know what is your next best step. Whether, excuse me, whether to apply to a one-shot deal or to reapply or to appeal the denial. Many institutions at the moment have altered their nature of work. So like I said, there's no need to be sued, but if you have any questions, you can call us directly. We are using language line. So any language that your tenant or a neighbor or a client is speaking, we will be able to access interpreters and speak to them through an interpreter. And there's various different charity-based organizations that are receiving federal funding to assist in rental assistance. At the moment, there's a federal money that is entering New York State. So we are excited to get to know where that will be going, what the applications will be occurring. Overall, the main thing is to call our hotline and to have the main information, which is your current rent, your arrears, and the total. If you have income, where is your income coming from, whether it's from unemployment, whether it's through cash assistance or friend or family members assisting you at the moment. Once we do your screening, we'll be able to guide you through that proper organization and then refer you to one of the orgs that we do, which is called the Bridge Fund program. There are certain organizations that have a very strict, what we call strict eligibility, but such as Coalition for the Homeless, they don't have too much of a strict eligibility. So if they don't need to know why you fell behind, they don't ask those questions. So overall, as I said, there's many different organizations that are providing funding. There's different criteria. So give us a call and we'll be able to direct you in that. And I want to just cut it short in there. So if you have questions, you're able to just drop it in the Q&A. I'll be able to answer that. And as the slide says, we are, there's live representatives we're always picking up the phone from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. My email is here, and I'll drop that in the chat. Our telephone number for our hotline is 212-962-4795. My extension is 263. We also have a lot of information. It may get busy, but during the wake call time, you'll hear important and vital information. So definitely give us a call. Thank you so much.
Great job, Nancy. A lot of valuable information there that we all need. If you happen to be going to housing court, if you happen to get an eviction notice, if you happen to not know what to do, you can definitely contact Housing Court Answers, and they will give you advice to help you along that situation. So if you're looking for an apartment or an affordable house, we have housing, HPD Marketing is on with Letitia Wright and Roger.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Philip, for the introduction. My name is Letitia Wright, and I am one of the outreach coordinators with our marketing and oversight team at Housing Preservation and Development. And I am accompanied with my colleague, Roger Maxwell, and he's going to assist with the Q&A portion. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show the home screen of Housing Connect. So there were some questions that were coming in the chat regarding NYCHA. So I just want to emphasize early on that NYCHA is a separate agency than HPD. So all the lotteries that are listed on Housing Connect are privately owned and managed. These are not city developments. These units are not city units. These are units that are located in private dwellings. They are privately owned and managed. So if you are contacted and you move into one of these units, you will be responsible for the rent amount that is listed on the advertisement, as well as utilities, regardless if there's a change in your household income after moving into the unit. So I just wanted to clarify that. So before I proceed, I want to confirm, can everyone see my screen, or Philip or Roger, if you can confirm?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, we
crystal
see it.
clear.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. All right, so this is the homepage of Housing Connect. This is the new Connect website. We launched this website back in July of last year. So any of your applications from the former Housing Connect website, you can still log into that website to check on the project status of those applications, but you would not be able to apply to any lotteries from there. So you would need to visit this new website to register and create an account, and also you would be expected to re-enter the contents of your profile and build it out so you can apply to the lotteries. On this new site, you are unable to apply to a lottery if your profile is incomplete. So you want to make sure that your profile is complete, okay? And we're going to speak momentarily just about the different functions on the homepage, because I want you all to familiarize yourself with Housing Connect if you haven't already. Okay, so again, like, this is the homepage where you would visit, and I'm just going to go over the sections of the homepage. So this section here just gives you an overview of how Housing Connect works. So typically, when you create your account, right, you're going to look at the list of open lotteries that are there, and I'm going to show you momentarily where you would go. And you are going to look at the qualifying details for the lotteries, because you always want to make sure when you're applying to a housing lottery, you are applying to lotteries that your household size and your household income qualifies you for, which is really important, okay? And what's also great is that we have this filter on the homepage, because from the former website, you know, some of the feedback we received from applicants would be, you know, instead of just searching and looking through all the lotteries that are listed, it would be great if I can input my household income and my household size, and the site can tell me which lotteries meet my specific qualifications, and then I would search those. I would search those options and apply to lotteries that I'm interested in, and you can do so. So you would enter your household size, and your household size for a housing lottery would be everyone that would live with you in the unit. So for example, if you're an expecting mom, you want to make sure you list your unborn child on your application. If you are currently residing in one unit, let's say you're a family of 3 where you are, and your grandmother that lives across town, would be living with you in the future, you want to make sure you list your grandmother on your application, because you want the leasing agent for the lottery to accurately account for everyone that would be in the household, and also additionally everyone in the household that earns income, so they will be able to properly assess your household income. All right, so that's very important to do so. And also, you can search the lotteries by borough. So this was like another feedback we received from applicants who wanted to only, apply to lotteries specifically in a particular borough. So now you'll be able to do so. You can just click on the option and you would view, look at the lotteries that are listed there. So we're going to return back to open lotteries, but you would click on open lotteries to review the list of all lotteries. It's best for you to visit Housing Connect so you can see the entire list of active lotteries that are open. You can check with local newspapers, your local community boards, mayor's office for people with disabilities, our agency's website, our sister agency's website, Housing Development Corporation. You can check with them or contacting any of our participating housing ambassadors. So you can do so, but if you have internet access, it's always best for you to visit the Housing Connect website, and I'll make sure, myself or Roger will make sure to include this link in the chat so you'll be able to, copy and keep for future reference. But we're going to revisit this tab. The About tab, which is really important, is going to give you a breakdown specifically of what is affordable housing. So when you are applying to these lotteries, you should be applying to lotteries that does not cost more than 1/3 of your household income. All the lotteries listed on Housing Connect targets different income levels, low, middle, and high. So you always want to make sure you are applying to lotteries that are specific to your household income. There may be a time you're going to visit the website and you may not see a lottery listed there. Do not get discouraged, okay? Lotteries are added to the website on a weekly basis. So just continue to check the website periodically and you would find a lottery that you will qualify for. And of course, you would submit an application. Also, if you are a registered user on Housing Connect, anytime a lottery is added to the site, you're going to receive an email blast. So you may receive emails of lotteries that you qualify for, you may receive emails of lotteries that you're not interested in, or you may receive emails of lotteries that you do qualify for. We just want to make sure that all registered users, they are well informed that when a lottery is added to the site, that they take the opportunity to visit that site and look at the qualifying criteria for the lottery and apply if interested. So again, you can further click on these options to see, okay, specifically how to apply. If you're ready to apply, what would be the next step? If you want to learn more about the process, you can click here. So if there's any information that you no longer remember after me speaking today, you can always revisit this About tab just to learn more about Housing Connect and the affordable housing lotteries. If you click on the Learn tab, you will find helpful tutorial videos that will navigate you through the process of registering and creating your account. So I'm going to emphasize again, when you are completing your profile, there are different sections you have to complete. Your profile cannot be incomplete on Housing Connect. So you want to make sure that when you are completing your profile, you want to see a green check next to your household summary page. If you do not see a green check, if you see a red magenta X, that means that your profile is incomplete. And you would need to revisit and complete different sections of your profile before you can apply. So these are different videos that is listed here. You can watch the video or you can click on the transcript, which will give you a step-by-step guide for that specific video that you're watching. Login screen is self-explanatory. If you have an account and you registered, you would just click on login. You will enter your username and your password, okay? Now, keep in mind that with the new site, your username is email address. On the old site, that was the case. On the new site, it's the alphanumeric code. That means that it's the name that you created upon registration. So it's a series of numbers and letters. And then, of course, you would have your password. Now, for security purposes, the registration process, as well as to reset your password, is a two-step authentication process. So you want to make sure that when you are registering and you're creating your account, make sure you write down your username and write down your password. You want to keep it somewhere handy. So in the future, when you need to log in, you have your sheet of paper or a note that you left on your phone that you can refer to. In the future, if you no longer have access to that secondary contact information you entered during registration, which would be either your cell phone or a second email address, if you no longer have access to that, you're not going to be able to reset your password. So please make sure that you write this information down, because even if you change your number in the future, or if you no longer use that secondary email address, but if you remember your password, you can log into your account and you can visit your account settings to make the necessary adjustments to the secondary contact info that you entered. Your primary email address, you would never be able to change with your account. That stays with the duration of your account. Okay, and register, self-explanatory, click on register, and then you will be able to create an account. But most importantly, this globe to the far right, we're most excited about. With this new version of Housing Connect, it is integrated with Google Tools and Google Maps. So if your native language, let's say for instance, is Spanish, you want to make sure you click on this globe. You're going to click on Spanish. Hopefully it works. Okay, let me try this again. It worked for me before. All right. You're going to click on this globe. You're going to click on Spanish, and then all the characters on the screen will translate from English to Spanish. So you want to make sure you do that beforehand. We really want to make sure that language is not a barrier when it comes to a user searching for housing opportunities on Housing Connect. Okay, and I'm going to change this back to English. All right, perfect. Now it's time for us to view and look at the lotteries, right, that are listed on Housing Connect. So again, you can click on open lotteries. You don't ever have to log into your account if you don't have one. Or let's say if you didn't register, that's fine too. But you will click on open lotteries, and then you will be able to see the full list of rental lotteries if you click on the rental tab. Or if you're interested in home ownership lotteries, you click on home ownership, you click on the sales tab, so you can view and look at the home ownership lotteries. Now, these home ownership lotteries is separate from Michelama. So Michelama is a separate program, but the home ownership lotteries that you can find on Housing Connect would be for condos, homes, and co-ops. So the same criteria applies. You want to look at the advertisement, you want to look at the qualifying detail that's listed, and you want to make sure you are applying to lotteries that you qualify for. Now, an add-on with the home ownership lotteries, your credit score may come into play specifically because you would be working with a third-party lender, meaning a financial institution, a bank, right? Because you would be applying for a mortgage loan. So if you do not meet those key specifics that they may have, because typically most banks will require you to have a 620 credit score, then that means you would not be able to move forward in the home ownership process if your application was reached. So it's always best for you to learn of ways how to improve your credit history and your credit score, especially if you want to apply to home ownership lotteries, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go back to rentals. And as you see here, there's going to be different snapshots, like a globe of the lotteries from there. So we call this more so like a box, right? It's going to, if you click on summary, it'll just give you overall summary of the lottery, tell you the number of units available, also nearby transit that's there. If you click on details, it's going to give you details specifics about the development, and also map, which is connected with Google Maps, will give you the proximity of where the building is located. Also, this refined search option is great too. So now you have the capability of customizing your search. So if you only want to apply to lotteries that are specific in a particular borough, a particular neighborhood, if you're only interested in home ownership lotteries, if you're only interested in some amenities, if you want a pet-friendly building or a building that has an elevator, you will be able to customize your search that way. But I strongly advise for you to use the household income and household size filter, because that is crucial. You always want to make sure, again, that you are applying to lotteries that you qualify for. So there was one one attendee that's here with us, and it was asking about a senior lottery. So typically, if there are senior lotteries, the lottery name will have the word senior in it, and also the lottery description, and you would see a requirement that states that you need to have a household member of 62 years or older on your application. So I'm going to use this lottery as an example just to break down the different sections of an advertisement, because this is very important for you guys to familiarize yourself with how to read an advertisement. So every lottery, whether it's a senior lottery or not, the top portion of the advertisement is going to inform you of the lottery name, is going to tell you the deadline date. So this senior lottery, the deadline date is May 18th, is going to inform you of the location, the address of the development. It's going to let you know the income requirements and also the household size, okay? The detail section, which is here, is going to cover and give you an overview of the funding programs that are associated with the development. So you'll be able to read into that more. So a developer who is either creating a new building within the 5 boroughs here in New York City, or if they are preserving their building, if they are applying for city funding to help with the development of their building, they have to contribute a portion of those units to housing affordability. And those units are awarded through a lottery system. So that's why you will have to visit Housing Connect, create your account, and you would log in. You are only contacted when your application is reached. So keep in mind that the need for affordable housing is great in New York City. New York City is very expensive to live in. We all can attest to that. But you are only contacted when your application is reached. Each lottery receives more applications than the number of units that are being advertised. So you always want to make sure you increase your chances by applying to as many lotteries that you qualify for. Also, you'll find here on the far right side, amenities that will be associated with the development. So take the opportunity, look at the amenities, right? Also, if there are priority groups that are associated with the lottery, you're going to find that information located here, and also a percentage next to it. That percentage is letting you know the percentage of units that are advertised for that lottery, how much would be reserved for that particular priority group. Now, this section on every advertisement, the available units and requirements, is the most important section. It's going to break down the area median income that's associated with a development. So as mentioned earlier, every lottery on Housing Connect is going to market to different income groups. So you always want to make sure you pay attention to the AMI and you're applying to lotteries that meet your income that you will qualify for. Next, it's going to give you a breakdown of the unit type that's associated with the development, and also the number of units that will be marketed for that unit type. So for example, for this 50% AMI project, this studio is a part of the building composition, and there are 26 units. So 26 studio units that is a part of this lottery. Also, it's going to list the monthly rent. It's going to also list the household size and the household income. So with this particular building, it's associated with Section 8. So that means that in order to qualify for this particular lottery, you would either have to have Section 8, or if you do not currently have Section 8, if you apply to this lottery and your application is reached, you must meet the requirements that's listed on the advertisement, and also you must meet the requirements that's a part of Section 8 to be enrolled in Section 8. okay? And this will be the household income. So when you are calculating your household income, you want to make sure it falls within the range that's listed on the advertisement. If you're a penny over, that means you're over income. If you're a penny under, that means you're under income. So you want to make sure your income falls within that range. And also pay attention to household size, because even if you may qualify by income, but you're applying to a lottery that's marketing only studios, and you're a household of four people cannot occupy a studio. So you always want to pay attention to the occupancy standards that are listed here too. You must meet both these criteria to apply, okay? So this is the section that I had referenced earlier regarding that with this system, it's connected with Google Maps. So it's going to tell you the proximity of the building, where it's located, also the nearby transit, parks, subway information, hospitals. You can find that listed here. Next, you're going to see a series of photos. So these photos are just going to give you a breakdown and also images of the layout of the development, common areas. If they have photos of the unit, it would be there as well too. So you can see how the development looks. And last but not least, it is going to give you who should apply and also how you can apply. So when you apply to a housing lottery, you have to select your method for applying. So if your preference is to apply online, which ideally is the best method to do so, because you will be able to register, you create your account. After you completely and successfully complete all sections of your account, you can go and apply to as many lotteries that you qualify for at that time. But if you do prefer to apply by paper, that is fine too. You're gonna have to look at the apply by section on all lotteries to identify where you would be submitting your written request. So typically this is what would happen. You would visit Housing Connect, you identify the lotteries you're interested in, you're gonna look by the apply by mail section on all the advertisements of the lotteries that you're interested in, and you need to submit a written request to that leasing agent. As I have mentioned earlier, these developments are privately owned and managed, which means they have a different leasing agent. That's why there isn't a universal application, paper application for all the lotteries. So you would be submitting your request to the leasing agent. That leasing agent is gonna mail the application to you. You're gonna complete it and mail it back to the leasing agent. You wanna make sure that your application is postmarked on the deadline date or prior. If it's postmarked after the deadline date, your application is considered late. So that's very important to remember. And also notice, if you see a lottery that you're interested in and the deadline date is tomorrow, you're not going to receive a paper application within 24 hours. So at that point, you would have to apply online. But if your preference is to apply by paper, make sure you submit your request quickly, especially with the pandemic and all of us that, experiencing receiving our mail late. So you just want to make sure you get an early start to submit your request beforehand so you can receive it back in time. All right. So before I conclude my presentation, I just want to reiterate again, so just to give you a brief overview of the process. You would apply to a housing lottery that you're interested in, and then there will be paper applications that we receive as well for a lottery. Those paper applications are data entered into Housing Connect, and then Housing Connect will randomize and assign log numbers. So log numbers represent your place on the list out of everyone that applies to a housing lottery. So for example, let's say there was, for this particular lottery, this senior lottery, right? The deadline date has passed, log numbers were randomly assigned, and this lottery received 15,000 applications. That means that the leasing agent is going to begin from log number 1 all the way up towards 15,000 to lease and fill up every unit that was advertised with this lottery. So keep in mind that do not get discouraged if you haven't been contacted. It's okay. You always want to make sure that you are applying to as many lotteries as possible that you qualify for, because there's the possibility that every lottery that you apply to, you may not hear back from them, or every lottery that you apply to, you would be contacted to submit documents to move forward in the eligibility process. But that's still not a guarantee that you would be assigned to a unit. Your guarantee of being assigned to a unit is when you move onward within your eligibility review towards your credit check and background check, then towards your lease signing. Once you sign that lease and you're in the unit, that's your unit. So if you haven't gone that far in the process, just be patient. You know, take your time, make sure you continue to apply. And at any time, if you receive a rejection notice, do not get discouraged. Read that notice thoroughly and make sure you submit an appeal if you do not agree with the determination. Make sure you submit an appeal, and you can also submit a complaint to the respective agency that's overseeing that lottery. So with Roger and my agency, HPD, we oversee most of the lotteries, but some of the lotteries are also, our sister agency oversees them as well too, HDC. So always make sure any correspondence you receive about your application regarding a housing lottery, please read it thoroughly. Follow the instructions thoroughly. Anytime you have questions or you're uncertain about a lottery process, a notice that you receive, you can contact our team. I'm going to leave our contact information in the chat. Our team is working remotely, so if you call our hotline, which is 212-863-7990, leave your name, number, and a message, and the team member will follow up with you. But it's best if you can email us, especially if you're experiencing intermittent issues with Housing Connect, because you can send us snapshots and photos of the discrepancy so we can better understand what's happening so we can help you. Our email address is nychousingconnect@hpd.nyc.gov. So again, thank you guys for your time and attention. I'm going to turn it back over to Philip.
Great job, Letitia. Awesome presentation. It seems Housing Connect is very up to date, very informative in reference to what it's providing. And thank you, Roger, for being in the chat and answering the questions. And anybody that has questions, we will address the questions at the end. We will also be doing a raise your hand to try to get to all your questions. So we are not ignoring you, but we will get to you. So right now we have Nazareth Housing is going to
Hey, Philip, you dropped out there, but so we're up next.
yeah, I said
Are you
Nazareth
there?
Housing. I guess I dropped off, right?
Okay, that's all right. So hi, everyone. This is Chris from Nazareth Housing. Sander discussed a little bit about who we are at the beginning of the webinar. Just really quickly, I want to thank all the presenters for being with us tonight. You know, a lot of your agencies were with us back in September when we first hosted this this webinar. And really glad to have you all joining us again tonight. And thanks to the attendees who've stuck around this long. It's been a long night, a lot of information, so thanks for being here with us. And I'm just gonna give you just a little bit more before we get to the Q&A. So let me start sharing my screen. And let me know if you can see this okay.
Yes, I
can see it.
All right. So we had hoped that Ariva would be able to join us tonight and to do a quick presentation on their free financial counseling that they offer specifically to affordable housing seekers. Unfortunately, they're really swamped with tax season right now, and they weren't able to join us, but I'm gonna do my best just to give you a quick overview of the basics of the program. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ready to Rent is a program that it encompasses both financial counseling and affordable housing application assistance. It's a partnership between HPD, the Department of Consumer Affairs, and Ariva that provides, as I said, not only free financial counseling, but also assistance submitting your affordable housing applications through one of the various housing ambassador organizations that are available around the city. And yeah, as we mentioned, Nazareth Housing is a housing ambassador. My coworker Siobhan put all of our contact information in the chat room. So if you're looking for assistance putting your application together and submitting it, creating an account in the Housing Connect portal, we can assist you with that. So please reach out and schedule an appointment with us. The second half of the Ready to Rent program, just as important, is the financial counseling that's available through Ariva. Before you can put an application together, you want to make sure that you're financially ready and capable of applying for the apartment, and Ariva is there to help you with that. So counseling sessions are free and available to everyone regardless of your income, regardless of your immigration status. The only requirement to participate is you have to be at least 18 years old. Once you schedule an appointment, an Ariva financial counselor will create a customized financial plan for you depending on what your individual needs are, but some of those things might include opening a bank account, reducing and managing your debt, establishing and improving your credit score, obtaining a taxpayer identification number so that you can file taxes. And I should also point out that they also provide free tax preparation as well, not just financial counseling. Learning to budget and manage money, increasing your savings and building your assets, preparing to buy a home or rent an affordable apartment, and achieving other financial goals that you might set with your counselor. And then specifically, they'll take a look at your credit history and how it specifically affects your housing eligibility, which is what concerns all of us here tonight. So for instance, how medical and student loan debt may or may not impact your eligibility, how recent bankruptcy declarations may impact your eligibility. These are things that they'll be able to go through or go over with you as you're creating a plan, getting ready to be rent ready, basically, for an affordable apartment. You can work with a counselor at Ariva for as long as you need. Typically, a client will participate in at least 2 to 3 sessions, but as I said, if you need more than that, the counseling is free for as long as you need it. Typically, a client participating in 2 sessions, you know, the first one, you'll meet with a counselor, they'll assess your financial health, they'll do a credit report, and then they'll help you develop a financial plan to meet whatever your goals may be, whether that's being eligible for an affordable housing apartment or just creating a household budget, whatever your goal might be. And then this, all subsequent sessions after that will focus on just assessing, you know, progress that you've made towards those goals and helping you make progress, helping you develop new goals. Scheduling an appointment with Ariva is pretty simple. There are a number of ways to do it. First, you can call 311 and ask to be connected to an Ariva financial counselor, and they'll patch you through. You can visit nyc.gov/ready-to-rent. That also includes the link to the appointment booking system that they have set up, as well as some other information. There's a really nice video that they've made that explains the whole program. The easiest way to schedule an appointment is to go directly to their website, ariva.org/fincounseling, and you'll be able to book an appointment there. All they ask for is your name, your phone number, email address, and your zip code. When you input that info, they'll reach out to confirm a time to schedule your first appointment. They've got a number of locations, but right now, due to COVID, all of their financial counseling and tax preparation services are being done virtually. There's no in-person services available at the moment. They'll need you to, if you are going to drop in to schedule an appointment in person, a virtual appointment later on, you will need to call ahead before showing up. They're not accepting walk-in appointments, but as I said, you can go to a location to schedule a virtual appointment. If you are going to go in person, there will be some basic COVID screenings. They'll do a health screening, they'll do a temperature check, and masks are obviously required. Will put all of Ariva's contact info in the chat, and I would encourage you to either email or give them a call if you have any other questions. And now I think I will turn it over to Philip again to start Philip and Sander to start the Q&A. I know we've got a lot of questions, and thanks again for being with us here tonight.
Hey, no problem, Christopher. Hopefully we can work together on getting the Q&A done. So if anybody has any questions, please use the raise your hand symbol, and then we'll know to unmute your mic so that we can hear your question. You can also put your question into the chat, and we will attempt to answer the question that way. Thank you for your participation and your understanding. Any questions? Any raise your hand?
I believe all the questions have been answered in the chat,
I
but
think I'm seeing one raise your hand
right?
now. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have two. We have David Farrell.
Okay.
So I think Randall, if you want to unmute David Farrell.
1 second, I'm gonna do that. David. All right, go ahead.
No, he's muted.
You should be able to talk now.
Okay, David, can you hear us? Hello, David Farrell.
He may have to unmute himself. It
Right.
just may have allowed him to unmute himself. So he has to unmute himself, I believe.
All right, we have a question from Ted Morris.
Okay.
We'll get back to you, David. Yep. Ted has the same challenge. Okay, Ted, yes, Ted. All right, we can hear David now.
Yes, could you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
go
hear you
ahead,
now.
David.
Okay, we'll get back to you
Yes.
in a minute, Ted, but David, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is Philip, right?
Yes, uh-huh.
Oh, yes, thank you, Philip, for having the time to answer my my question or my connection. Yeah, I had a friend of mine named Philip Oliver. He still lives in Castle Hill. He lives in the Randall projects over there. He used to live over here in Interville, but he moved to the Randall projects a long time ago. But he's a friend of mine. He lives over there, and it's nice to speaking to you. Hey, Philip, I got a question, Philip. You know,
Go
I'm a
ahead.
citizen, right?
Uh-huh.
And I have I receive SSI, and I also receive. I've been with City Heps for the last 4 years, and they've been really very helpful to me, and I'm very grateful for it because otherwise I don't know where I would be. But Philip, I'm right now. I'm in a room in Teller Avenue, and it's really it's really a shamble. It's not really properly maintenance, and I always got to call 311 for heat, and then the other my fellow neighbor, they out of control with the with the hygiene and the cleanliness and that so forth. So I have done some Housing Connect application, but unfortunately I haven't been blessed yet. But now I like for yourself or Christopher to please I like just to have either a studio or one bedroom, right, for myself. And I'm in need of that real bad. Like I said, how could that happen?
Right, so we have several panelists on here that could address your question. Anybody want
Yes.
to take a stab at that first?
Hi, David.
Yes.
Hi, David. It's Roger Maxwell with HPD HPD Marketing, along with Letitia Wright. She was
Yes.
just going over the Housing Connect process.
Yes.
So we do, like Letitia said earlier, we encourage everyone to apply to as many lotteries as possible.
Yes.
Apply to the ones that you qualify for.
Yes.
This gives you a better shot of getting called.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it is a lottery process, but again, we can't emphasize it enough. You want to try to apply to as many as you qualify for.
Yes.
And and hopefully, you'll get called. And don't get discouraged. Again, please keep applying.
Well, yeah. I've been, I've been doing it, and like I said, I have applied for many applications. But since last year, and so we're in the 4th month of this year, so I haven't, have no blessing or no luck yet. So now I like to turn to see if, why citizen housing I could really, get into, because I was thinking they will have I will have maybe a better chance. So that's my question. How can I, get into a senior housing as soon as possible?
But with the senior housing, again, our process, again, is a lottery process. So it's not an immediate fix for you. It wouldn't be an immediate, fix for you because of our process.
Right.
We don't cater to immediate housing, again, because of the process.
Right.
So, on that note, I wouldn't be able to tell you, how would you go about getting into senior housing immediately. But
Right.
for, again, please, do apply to our, to the Housing Connect portal. So you
Yes.
can have, a chance of getting one of the housing lotteries.
Yes, and like I spoke.
If I
Hello.
can also add on, yes, hi, this is Letitia speaking.
Hi,
So if
Letitia.
I
How you
may add
doing?
on, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. So just
Okay.
in a nutshell, in
Yes.
general, with any of the housing lotteries, as my colleague mentioned, Housing
Yes.
Connect and those lotteries are not an immediate source of housing. So you should apply to the lotteries in addition to conduct your own independent search and looking for other housing opportunities from there. So I did post a link in the chat. I'll
Yes.
repost it because I saw someone else posted under me, but there's a housing resource link that you can visit on our agency's website, and they have like other housing options you can look at. But in terms of the lottery, you're only contacted when your application is reached. So there's no way to circumvent that. It's all applicants that are contacted, they are contacted in log number order. That's how the process works. So if you are 62 and older, then look at the senior lotteries, like the senior lottery that I had shown a few minutes ago. Apply to that lottery because 100% of those units that are advertised for that lottery are awarded to applicants who meet the criteria. They must have a household member on their application that's 62 years and over. So if that is you, make sure you apply to that lottery and look at other senior lotteries, if there are any that's listed, any additional ones, that are listed on the site, and submit an application. But you still have to await contact because that's how the lottery process works. You're only contacted when your application is reached. There's no way to speed that up. You're only contacted when your application is reached.
Okay, Letitia.
Okay.
I appreciate that, Letitia. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Charlisa from HPD. I'm part of the NEO team that helps coordinate these types of virtual housing resource fairs.
What's your
And
name
one
again?
of
I'm
the things,
sorry. What's your name again?
Charlisa.
Hi, Shalisha. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
as we know, it is very, very challenging these days to actually
Yes.
find an apartment.
Yes.
And, we feel for everyone because on our side, we only feel successful if we're able to actually have someone secure an apartment.
Yes.
But there are other places that you can look. As Letitia said, and Phil or Elaine can put this in the website, or maybe Letitia did already, we have a housing resource portal that HPD just recently rolled out. You can go to hpd.nyc.gov. This housing portal, you can go in and query by like what you are interested in. So for instance, I need an affordable apartment. And what will pop up are all these different links to different
Yes.
like places that also have affordable housing. For instance, like there might be a Mitchell-Lamas that might have a list, you know, that you can see where the Mitchell-Lama apartments are. Our sister agency might have some things. So that might be another way of like assisting you and just looking and seeing wherever you can put your information and wherever you can find anything to apply for. The other thing also is get involved with local organizations in your community. I'm not sure where are you from the Bronx or wherever?
Yes,
But
yes, I'm from the
okay.
Bronx.
There are plenty of agencies, and you probably will also see this on our HPD portal as well, because it takes you from one link to another link that will actually, you know, help you also apply for different things other than what HPD has. And in some cases, some of these local community-based organizations have their own housing that they manage themselves. So they will be able to tell you, okay, you can put your name on this list. You can, you know, we have maybe something that, you know, we're involved in here and you might be able to apply here. Like we said, this is not an overnight thing, but the more options you have, the more chance it will be for you to hopefully secure an apartment. Unfortunately, we just don't have anything that we could say, go here, there's something for you. But these are options and this is information, and this will allow you to just kind of spread your wings a little bit, not just pigeonhole yourself and just applying to HPD lotteries. Try everything that you can possibly
Yes.
try.
Yes.
Nazareth is one of the leaders on this call. I don't know if they can help you with that, but we do have organizations. If you reach out to us at neo@hpd.nyc.org, just post your question, like saying, oh, could you just lead me to some additional organizations in the Bronx? We will happily just, you know, email that back to you, that information back to you.
Okay, I appreciate
Okay?
that. Yes,
All
I
right.
appreciate that. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, all
You're
right?
welcome. Okay.
Isha, right? Thank you, I appreciate it.
Charlisa.
Charlisa, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Charlisa. And now we go on to Ted. Ted, you have a question?
Yes, just very brief. My name is Ted Morris. I am the housing chair of Community Board number 8. I'd like to thank you, Chris, and all the other members of Nazareth for presenting this resource fair tonight. Just as a brief moment of clarity, I do understand that HPD is a separate entity from NYCHA. But it is my understanding that all these other agencies and services like SCREE, DREE, DHCR, Ready to Rent, these other entities are available to NYCHA residents.
So I just wanted to weigh in here specifically, Mr. Morris, about the SCREE DREE part. My name is Christopher McAlpine Belton. I'm with the Mayor's Public Engagement Unit, and I'm the Outreach Manager for the Rent Freeze team. SCREE and DREE is not available for residents of NYCHA developments. That NYCHA units are not eligible for SCREE or DREE benefits. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Thank you.
Hello.
So hi, Letitia from marketing at HPD in regards to the housing lotteries. So if an applicant currently resides in a NYCHA building, a city building, they can still apply to the housing lotteries. That's fine. But they just have to be aware that the units or the lotteries that they are applying to on Housing Connect are not city units, that they are units that are located in private dwellings. So like for instance, I believe with NYCHA housing, let's say if there's a change in their earning potential, that there would be a difference in their rent, it would drop. That will not happen with any of the units that are awarded through the lottery system. So the rent that is advertised on the lottery's advertisement, that will be the rent that a household is expected to pay if any change happens in their income.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm Charlisa from NEO again. I just wanted to add something to that. If someone is a NYCHA resident, their income will never be more than 30%. I mean, their rent will never be more than 30% of their income. So you're already technically receiving a subsidy, because based on where you live, your rent will never go over 30%, right? So if your income decreases or whatever, or increases, that rent will be calculated based on what your actual income is. So that's why you would not be eligible for SCREE or DREE, because you're already receiving a subsidy. However, if someone just decides, as Letitia said, to move out of NYCHA and decide they want to go somewhere else to live, that's their option. But they have to be aware that the income requirements might be slightly different. The qualifications may be slightly different, because you are no longer under a NYCHA umbrella. So I just want to make that clear, and that, you know, when you're in NYCHA, you're not going to receive any other subsidies through any other programs. You would have to actually leave that NYCHA development to participate in any other housing program or any other housing availability.
Okay, Ted, thank you for your question. We have one more question from Cynthia Barton, listed as a panelist. I guess, yep, there we go. Thank you, Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and yourself. I just
Good.
wanted to chime in. I work for Nazareth Housing, and I'm the senior housing specialist with Nazareth Housing. And just to address the gentleman that was talking about senior housing, he can go to the Department of Aging website, and they do have apartment listings or resources for senior housing. But just to let him know, overall, there is a wait list for senior housing across the board. So he should try to get on as many wait lists as possible, because, you know, senior housing is hard to find. So you just have to apply to everything that you possibly can qualify for. And, you know, eventually something will come through. That's the first thing.
Can you put that contact information in the chat, Cynthia?
The second thing, well, I'm kind of driving right now, so I don't have
no
the ability.
Are you going in and out, Cynthia?
I'm hoping maybe Chris will put it in the chat. They do have a website with resources that. Huh? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we
Siobhan,
were
I'll make
losing you. I'm sorry. We couldn't hear you, but we can hear you now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll ask either Siobhan or Chris or Xander to put the information in for Department of Aging, and then the resource list will there. He will be able to find the resource list there, and then can apply to all the senior housing that's there. And my question would be for HPD in reference to the lottery housing, because I think sometimes the clients don't understand when it's like set aside apartments, and as you have stated, there could be like maybe 10 apartments available, and you're getting 50,000 applications potentially. That
Yes, can you repeat that again, Cynthia?
Those that don't get automatically put on the wait list.
Can you just repeat that one more time, Cynthia? You were going in and out.
Okay, I'm sorry. For the HPD lottery.
I understood.
Okay.
Hi, Cynthia. I understand the question. So there are no wait lists with any of the lotteries that are listed on this current Housing Connect portal. Let me just dive into that more in depth. it's always best for you to look at a lottery's advertisement, and you want to look under the description section, and it's going to specify the priority groups that units would be set aside for, which would be either households that have a household member with a hearing, visual, or mobility disability. If there's a community board preference associated with the development, that would be listed there, and it will give you a percentage of the units that would be reserved for that. If there's a municipal employee preference, that would also be listed there too. So as I mentioned earlier, just to emphasize, again, applicants are contacted in log number order. That is how outreach is conducted with the lotteries. However, if a household is not contacted, that means their application wasn't reached. And if all the units were were filled, that means that the leasing agent was able to lease up those units with households that had a lower log number. So that is one thing. Secondly, when you apply to a lottery on this version of Housing Connect, you can check your application's dashboard in real time. So this is an added benefit and also a bonus versus the previous website. So you can log into your account and your client can look at their application's dashboard to see specifically what stage where their application lies. If their application is still in the pending phase, that means their application haven't been reached. If their application transitioned from pending to in process, that means the leasing agent reached their application and they are reviewing it. If it goes from in process to action required, that means that the leasing agent is going to reach out to that applicant because they need to schedule an eligibility appointment to collect documents from that applicant to confirm their eligibility. If that applicant moves onward to where it will go to the respective agency that's overseeing that lottery, they would also check and review their file, and then they would move onward if they pass that stage to credit and background check onward to lease signing. So then the application would transition from action required to completed because they've went through the process. So a lot can happen in that time because, agents, they are contacting a pool of people at a particular time in log number order. So, and a lot can happen where from the time that someone applied to the time that they are contacted, they may not be interested in the unit anymore, or they are no longer eligible because their household size and income has changed, or they're just not interested in moving forward with that particular project. So these are just some options. However, if a household was contacted and they underwent an eligibility appointment, but there are no more units available, they are not placed on a wait list. So wait list essentially in the past meant that if a household moves out of the unit, that unit, for it to be sustained and remain in housing affordability, is awarded through a lottery system again, but they would contact eligible households from a wait list. With this new system, there are no wait lists with that. Anytime a unit becomes vacant, that was a part of the lottery, based on the housing choices questions that an applicant would answer on their profile if they are interested in learning or being considered for re-rentals, because that's what we will call it, a re-rental, right? Because it was once occupied, now it's vacant. The leasing agent, they now have the opportunity to contact directly eligible applicants for that specific unit. So if, let's say one of your clients, if they receive a notification that their profile was viewed and they are deemed eligible for this vacant unit, would they like to move onward in the process to be considered? That is the new version of a wait list. So what happened in the past with the older projects, that has been phased out. With this new system, there are no wait lists. So again, just to emphasize, when a vacant unit becomes available, leasing agents have the capability of utilizing the portal specifically so they can contact and send a message to eligible households directly through the portal.
Thank you.
All right, so that's all the time we have. Thank you for the questions. Thank you to the panelists for doing a great job. Thank you for Nazareth Housing for the partnership. Thank you for the NEO team. We've had a great time in sharing some valuable information. Hopefully, we definitely know that it is helpful. We bid you a fond adieu and have a safe evening, and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
You're a great team. Thanks so much. Good night.